As I said, I am Phoebe. I am saved. I love the Lord Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. I am blessed because I have been given an opportunity to be a child of God. The Bible says that we have been given power to become children of God. And I thank God for that, because I know that it is because of the work of the cross that Jesus did that gave us that power and that permission to be called the children of God, that we can go to God and call upon his name and even be allowed to dwell in the presence of God like we are right now, just because of that good work that Jesus did on the cross. And so I thank God, and I believe that we are learning a lot. When I was seated there, I was just listening to the speakers. The first speaker talked about women being shaped to become helpers because God counts on us. By nature, a woman is a giver. We are givers, isn't it? We don't even know how to receive. Sometimes we don't know how to receive. We don't know how to receive things. When people want to be good to us, sometimes we don't know how to behave because we are wired. The way God created us, he created us so that we can be givers and nurturers. We nurture. We know just how to take care of people. We take care of children. We take care of our husbands. We take care of our mothers and fathers-in-law. We take care of our siblings. So much that sometimes we even forget ourselves. We don't know how to take care of ourselves, so that we also don't even know how to receive. We give love, but sometimes we don't know how to receive love. Have you ever told somebody, you are very smart, you are looking smart, na mtu akakwambia, ai, na hii na ni mtushi. Sasa hiyo, it just shows that we don't know how to receive, even compliments. But we know how to give. May God help us, because we are being transformed. Bwana asifiwe. We are being made better, so that when somebody tells you that you are smart, you know how to respond to that. You say, yes, I am glad. I thank God for my good dress. Bwana asifiwe sana. So I thank God for a conference like this. These are some of the occasions I don't take for granted, because personally I am a product of such conferences. I purposed many times, many years ago, immediately, especially when I got married. And I realized that marriage is really not a bed of roses. And you never go to school to be taught how to marry. Of how to be married, how to remain in marriage, how to take, nothing like that. So we enter into marriage, and we are ignorant of a lot of things. But I thank God for great women of God and servants of God who prepare conferences like this, because they are the ones personally that have helped me become the woman that I am today. And I can tell you, please, for sure, purpose, that you shall never fail to attend a conference that has been organized like this, because you learn a lot. Of course, there is a lot of preaching, but there are other things that you learn in conferences like this that you'll never be taught by anybody. Sometimes you have got to pay money to be taught some of these very important things in life. And so it is really a challenge that I'm throwing to you. Do not take conferences like this for granted. And so I'm blessed to be here. I thank God for this invitation. I also thank Mom and the organizers for this invitation. Like she says, I truly do not know you. You also don't know me. But we shall know one another. By the time we leave these doors today, we shall be friends, I believe. I am thinking that I now have another family. Bwana asifiwe sana. When I look in this church, I am seeing a lot of spirit of excellence. Jipigieni makofi. The spirit of excellence. I love the spirit of excellence. You know, the spirit of excellence. It is the spirit that distinguishes you from others. You know, when you are walking around and you are telling people, mi nashiriki kanisa la deliverance. Deliverance. Na unaweka mukururo hapo. Deliverance Church. Ukunaitwa aje huku? Blue Valley. Watu wanajua tu huyo anakaa delivered. Bwana asifiwe sana. Because of the spirit of excellence. I almost feel like I want to be one of you. But and now that the doors have been opened, I now know that the next time I come, I will not necessarily come as a visitor. So I am here to talk about the things that God has been putting in my heart over the time. I developed an interest in counseling some years back, actually, when I was in college. I am a trained teacher, and one of the units that we were doing in college was called psychology. And psychology was being taught to us just to help us be able to understand the mind of a child. When a child comes to school, and they are beginning and they are going to go that journey, and you are supposed as a teacher to walk that journey with the child, what kind of a person are you going to be dealing with? So we were taught some psychology that was meant to help us understand the mind of a child, the behavior of a child, the thoughts of a child, so that as we take them through the journey of education, we are going to help them succeed at the end. And that time, I felt like that is a very interesting thing for me, and I just decided or developed an interest in psychology. So once I finished my college education, I was posted, I became a teacher. I have taught in some schools, in high schools. I taught in Moranga High School. I also taught in Baricho High School. And then after that, I decided that I want to do some little bit of this psychology. So I enrolled for a master's degree in KU, which I did. And then I was posted to teach in Kegari Teachers Training College. And that is where I have been. And I am still learning. And I thank God for the opportunity of being able to do that course, because it was really a mind opener. It helped me even understand myself. There were things that I was doing and I didn't know why I was doing them. Probably you find yourself doing the same. There are things you do and you don't understand, now why have I done that? What is wrong with me? Probably there's really nothing wrong with you. You just need to understand some few things about the way the mind works so that you understand why you behave the way you behave, why you do things the way you do, why people do the things they do. Sometimes we work with the people and we go to church with the people and you don't understand them. When we are in church like this, we are all Christians. And when we are put in that umbrella, maybe somebody would expect that we are going to behave in the same way, we are going to think in the same way. But you see a lot of differences, isn't it? It is probably because of issues of personality, issues of mind, issues of behavior. And so when I studied psychology, I realized that there are very, very different ways that God has created us. No wonder the Bible says that we are created in a wonderful and amazing way. In Kikuyu, it says, "Atetobeto na ajira ya kumakania na kugegania." Kumakania. So sometimes we surprise people, isn't it? Even we surprise ourselves. Like I said, there are things that you do and you don't understand who is this? Who is this doing this? At some level, sio lazima ueleweke. Bwana asifiwe sana. Sio lazima ueleweke, na kwa kawaida watu sio lazima watakuelewa kila wakati. Lakini ni kwa sababu umeumbwa na njia ya kutisha. Can you imagine kumakania? Adomona ogeka keodo makamaka. Makaliwa haya. Bwana asifiwe. So we are here to study some of those things, and I thank God. I believe we shall have a very good session. I have a very short time. I've just been given an hour. Yet I have so much. I don't know. God will give me the grace to compress it in such a way that we are going to get as much. And so I am here to talk about mental health. And mental health is something that we have had, all of us. We have had it mentioned. Mom was showing me a book that has been written by somebody there about mental health. And I hope we shall be able to buy that book and read it and probably see a lot of things about mental health. mental health is a common phenomena in our society, in the world generally, and even in the days of the Bible, mental health was an issue. There isn't statistics in Kenya, 2015, around 2015, it was discovered that about 2 million Kenyans, 1.9 million Kenyans suffer from one or the other type of mental health. That's a large number. It's like the whole of Nairobi. All the people in Nairobi are sick in the head. You know, mental health, sick in the head. I believe that those statistics have changed with the time because times have changed. There are many things that are happening today that have contributed a lot. Those same statistics were saying that 1 out of 4, so when we count 1, 2, 3, 4, one of them, God forbid, Bwana asifiwe sana, that 1 out of 4 people is suffering from one or the other type of mental sickness. Mental sickness is something that happens or can happen to anyone, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of social status, regardless of education status. So it is a disease that can happen to anybody. And mental health is a disease like any other. It is just like malaria. It is just like TB. It is just that. The only difference is that a lot of times mental sicknesses hakunanga uchungu. Unajua ukiwa na amoeba, si unaumwa na tumbo. Na unaenda kwa daktari unamwambia, I am having a stomachache. So they know where to begin their diagnosis. But mental health, or mental sickness rather, is not something that sometimes pains. So we shall just observe it. We shall just look at a person, and if we have the awareness, we shall be able to see this person is not normal. The way they are doing things is not, but they may never complain of any pain anywhere. Sometimes it might come with some pain, but not always. And therefore, it becomes very difficult to diagnose mental sickness. Maybe that is the reason why there is also a lot of stigma that is attached to mental sickness. But now, when we attend sessions like this, one of the things that we hope to do is to help you be able to, one, overcome the stigma if you are dealing with the issue of mental health, and secondly, be able to handle people with mental health, mental sicknesses, without stigmatizing them, without putting them aside. Our traditional times, in our traditional times, or even our tradition, as we know it, is one of the things that really stigmatized people with mental sicknesses. I am told by my grandmother that when a girl wanted to get married, or a man wanted to marry, one of the minimum qualifications, of course, those were the days when marriages were more or less organized. You know, organized in such a way that your parents had a stake. You know, they had a way of, or they had a role to play in deciding who you marry or who you get married to. So one of the minimum qualifications, or one of the questions that one would be asked, if you went and told your mom or your whoever that you want to get married, they would ask you, who is marrying you? And so you would say, so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. And then they would ask you, have you found out about their family? What kind of a family is that? And one of the key questions was whether there is anybody in that family that suffers from mental health. In Kikuyu, it is very, you know, it's very scary. It says, and if it got to be known that anybody in that family suffers from mental sickness, that would be enough to ensure that you don't get married into that family. That is stigma. And it is important for us to know that mental sickness is not contagious. even if you sleep with somebody who is mentally sick, if you go to school, if you sit next to a person who is mentally sick, it is not like COVID. Bwana asifiwe sana. But there is a lot of stigma that surrounds it, and that is why we are having challenges. Actually, the psychotherapists and people in the medical world, and I hear there are some around here, they are having a lot of challenges knowing how to help people with mental sicknesses, because we are aware that even in some families, those people are hidden. You know, they are put in some corner of the house. They are not allowed to interact and to mingle with others. All that is stigma. So I am saying, my point here is that when we are done with this session, we hope that we shall ourselves, we shall have been able, one, to overcome that, and to know that if I am suffering from mental sickness, it's not something to be ashamed about. Bwana asifiwe. It is not something to be ashamed about. I will not refuse to go to hospital. And when I go to hospital, I will not refuse to take medication. And I will not be shy to tell people that I have this or that problem, because you have overcome it. And of course, the other way is that if we happen to interact with the people that have mental sicknesses, whether in our homes or in our places of work or wherever we are, that God will help us not to judge them and to isolate them, but to be willing to help them in whichever way you can. Bwana asifiwe sana. So that is just a little bit of some introduction about mental health, and it is important for me to also mention that mental health affects our emotions. It affects mental sickness. It affects our emotions. Emotions are the things we feel, and women are very emotional, by the way. It's good that I'm talking to women. Women are known for their emotions, mood swings. Bwana asifiwe. Unlike men. Na mundisaidia tu kuwasaidia, si ndio? Tafadhali, I believe hata kama I was preaching, you would still help me to preach. This one does not have a lot of amen. Hii haina amen nyingi. Bwana asifiwe sana. Lakini whenever I need some response from you, please let me see it so that I know we are following each other, isn't it? Unajua huo ndio ubaya wa mwalimu. Mwalimu anakishinda mnanielewa? Mnasikia? So mkinisikia nikisema mambo kama hayo, please don't give me that stone face. Bwana asifiwe sana. So we are saying that women are emotional. Women are emotional because our life revolves around our emotions. A lot of the things that we do them out of our emotions, isn't it? As compared to men who are physical. Men are physical. They express themselves physically. Bwana asifiwe. So, therefore, when we talk about mental health, I think it is important for you when we talk about emotions. And we are saying that mental sickness affects our emotions. It affects our thinking, the way we think, our thought processes, and it also affects our behavior. So that is how, those are some of the things that we shall be observing whenever we talk about mental health. And I might also need to mention that mental health is treatable depending on the level where it is, and of course the type. There are some of them that are just conditions that are more or less lifelong. But majority of the mental sicknesses are treatable. Now, mental health may also affect mental sickness. When you hear me talking about mental health, mental sickness, those are terms that are interchangeable in this particular session. So mental sickness affects our work. It affects our work because it has a way of affecting our day-to-day life. So our work, and we shall see how. It affects our productivity in our workplace, just like every other sickness. When you are mentally sick, you will not be expected to be as productive as you are normally. So mental sickness affects our productivity at work. it also affects our relationships. Our relationships at the family level, our relationships at the workplace, our relationships wherever. So if someone is suffering from mental sickness, it is possible that they are not also able to have very healthy relationships. And mental sickness also affects our ability to adapt to changes, and even how we cope with adversity or with difficult times. So change is constant. In fact, they say that if there's something that we are so sure about, is change and death. Those are things that you can be sure will happen at one point or the other in life, isn't it? Change and death. Those are constant. They are forever there. Now, but when people suffer from mental sicknesses, they have a problem adapting to change. When literal change happens in their lives, they are not able to handle it. Now, I will mention some of the common mental sicknesses that we may experience, and probably we have experienced or we have seen people experience even if we didn't know. And maybe then I will dwell with only one, because I cannot go through all of them. I will deal with the most common, which is depression. But there are many. Depression is the most common. That one I shall later come back to it and give some few things, or talk about some few things about depression. But depression is common. So list one, depression, types of mental illnesses. One is depression. We shall come back to that. The other one is called anxiety. Anxiety is accompanied, it is manifested through overwhelming fear. A fear, or what we call phobia. Fear of, we have common fears, like I fear snakes. What do you fear? I fear snakes. I fear chameleons. I used to fear elevators. You know those things that slide as they go up? Those ones I used to fear. But I have overcome that with time. What are your fears? No more fears. Cold water, hot uji. Those are common fears. But for a fear to become anxiety, one, it must persist. And then it is usually not equal. Like I cannot hear this microphone. My friend who was trying to give me this microphone found me running away from it. That is abnormal, isn't it? So that is what we call anxiety. Then anxiety is also manifested when you fear the unknown. You fear so much that you are so afraid to take a step, and it affects generally your way of life. Life is full of anxiety, uncertainties. Like we don't know how the next moment will be, isn't it? And there are people who fear life or fear things in life. They fear people so much. They fear certain things so much so that they are almost incapacitated. They are so disabled. They fear places that they are so disabled they cannot go to certain places, even if that fear is not necessarily equal to the place or to the person they are fearing. So that is called anxiety. It is an overwhelming fear. It is panic. When you think of certain things, you panic. You fear. You feel in your stomach the mention of something. I was attacked by thugs one time, and one of the thugs was a very tall man. It was at night. Thugs come at night normally, especially those that are intended to terrorize you. So this guy, alongside with some others, they come at night. They break into our house and that kind of thing, and then he calls me to go help him pack some certain items in the table room, and I'm there with him, and I spent some good amount of time with him, helping him pack my own belongings. Then I observed that the guy was a tall man, and he was in police uniform. And I am not sure he had a gun, but he had a very bright torch. And then he had something that he was using to clobber my head whenever I appeared not to cooperate So, within the time we were together, my system maybe was in denial. Maybe my mind refused to register what was happening until he left. And that is now the time I realized this was a criminal, this was a thug. He had come here to kill me. You know, things like that. And then, for many days after that, I was very fearful of tall men. Anytime I saw a tall man, and my husband happens to be one of them, he's a very tall guy, tall and dark and handsome. Anyway, so this one created in me such a fear that anytime I went out to go to my place of work and I met a tall man, I thought this must be him. He might complete what he had started, you know, and I would panic. I would be very afraid, and it continued until eventually I had to move out from that place. That is anxiety. So I wish I had time. We should have explored a bit more, but that is it. I think I've given you some bit of what fear is. I mean, anxiety is. It's that panic, that fear, like darkness. Some people fear darkness. Maybe they have gone through experiences in their life that happened at night, like that one of mine. In fact, I was very afraid. Anytime it got to 6 in the evening, I kept asking myself, now, and I always felt that that person might come again because he had come at night. So, I mean, that is what panic is all about. It can be so overwhelming that it disables you so that you are unable to carry on with your normal life. The other common mental disease is called bipolar disorder. Bipolar is quite common, and it also affects a lot of people. And this one is manifested through extreme mood swings. This person that has bipolar is very unpredictable because at some times they'll be so extremely happy, very ecstatic, you know, out of their way, going to parties and all that kind of thing. Very excited, laughing a lot and talking a lot. Then the same person, the following day is on the other extreme, very sad, very unhappy, very angry, you know, very irritable. You touch them a little bit and they are all over the place. So if you notice someone of that nature, someone you are almost fearing to go near to because they can have an outburst. And then at the other moment, they are so excited, they are so happy, you are not able to predict what to expect from that person. That person could be suffering from bipolar disease. Then, of course, we have the one that we know very well, substance use disorder. That's a disorder. Substance use. People who abuse alcohol, people who take beer, extremely people who abuse other drugs, cocaine, heroin. That's a disorder. It is a kind of a mental sickness. It is not normal for somebody to be drinking from Sunday to Sunday from January to December. Hi. It's not normal, isn't it? Yes, there must be something wrong. And so we call it a mental sickness. Now, we have another one that we call schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is, for those who are writing, schizophrenia. Schizophrenia. Now, that is the sickness that we normally know as madness. Mtu amechizi. That is schizophrenia. It has different forms. But one of the manifestations of schizophrenia is something we call hallucinations. Hallucinations are, you know, are those voices that people hear when they are not there. Mtu anasikia ni kama anaitwa. So anasikia watu wanamuita, labda watu wanamkimbiza. That is hallucinations. It happens a lot with people, even with some other disorders, but with the schizophrenia. This is a person who also suffers from delusions. Delusions are weird beliefs, you know, imani ambazo si za kawaida. Mtu anaweza kuamini yeye ndiye president. Yes. Kama sasa si tutakuwa tunaapisha our president elect. Unaweza kuona mtu amejitengenezea jukwaa. And he has an imaginary crowd that is cheering him. So he will do all those things and because this can happen even to learned people, they will speak English and they will be sworn in an imaginary way. A person might think that he's a policeman. They might believe that they are policemen, senior ones for that matter. So utakuwa unaona mtu anatembea hivi, anapiga salute, march, because they believe they are policemen. Those are called delusions. Some people, you know, may believe there are all kinds of things, very weird beliefs that you cannot convince that person that they are not what they are. And sometimes they even verbalize it. They say, me, I'm the governor. You know, I'm the governor of this county. I'm the governor, and that is my car. So he's on the pastor's car. And I point like this, na anasema ni yake, hiyo ni yake. Kwa sababu yeye ni governor. You cannot convince them any other way because that's a delusion. It's a belief they have in them. Then they also manifest something we call paranoia. Paranoia is fear that people are talking about you. Ukiona watu wawili pahali wanaongea, those ones must be talking about me. Those ones, they must be talking about me. And because now you want to defend yourself, you might pick stones and begin beating them because you believe they are talking about you. You might meet someone who is coming along the way and you believe they are coming to attack you. So you attack them beforehand. Paranoia. Paranoia is going to be manifested in that kind of abnormal fear, that you fear things that are not there. You fear, for example, that food has been poisoned. And so you refuse to eat that food. You go to a hotel and maybe you have taken someone to a hotel that has this problem and you buy them food, but they refuse to eat it and they tell you this food has been poisoned. I saw the chef putting poison. I saw, you know, hallucinations. Actually, I saw somebody going to buy poison. They have put poison in this food. Those are the people when they are taken to hospital, because sometimes they become very violent, which is another characteristic of schizophrenia. They can be very violent. We have seen those people in hospitals that come tied and chained because they are all over. They want to defend themselves because they are thinking somebody is attacking them. So when they are given medication, or even when you attempt to take them to hospital, they will tell you, they will go shouting all over the place, that these people are saying that I am mad. Me, I'm not mad, and I'll not take any medication because they want to kill me. Those are the things that you'll hear these people say because they have lost touch with reality. They are already disoriented with real life. That is schizophrenia. I know we have seen it, and so it's not a very new thing. Then we have another disorder or mental illness that we call obsessive compulsive disorder. In short, we call it OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. This one is an interesting one, and it affects quite a population. And it is accompanied with obsessive thoughts. It starts there, that one has thoughts that obsess. To obsess is to occupy. Actually occupy your mind so much. Let me just give you an example. We have just come from the COVID times. During the COVID times, we were made to believe, allow me to say that for lack of a better word, we were made to believe that anything we touched had the virus, isn't it? That's what we were made to believe. Just allow me to use that word because this is what I want to say in order to be able to help you understand what is an obsession. So we went around believing that microphones have a virus, the pulpit has a virus, my book has a virus, my pen has a virus, myself, I am carrying the virus, isn't it? we were made to believe that, and therefore we were told for us to be able to overcome all that, we have to keep washing hands. So we put water points everywhere, outside the door, behind the door, inside the house, outside the toilet, everywhere. And it was okay because that was that season. So the thought that occupied our mind was the thought of virus, isn't it? The COVID virus. Now, that is what is an obsession. Then, it is also accompanied by something we are calling compulsive. Compulsion to do some certain rituals to be able to overcome the obsessive thought. So now, for you to be sure that you are not carrying or you will not contact COVID, you have to keep washing your hands. So you wash your hands when you are going to the toilet, when you are coming out of the toilet. When you are eating food, when you are not eating food. When you are going to sleep, when you are waking up. When you are going out of the house, when you are coming in. When you greet somebody, you don't even greet in the first place. When you look at somebody, you wash your hands. When you are not looking at anybody, you wash your hands. Bwana asifiwe. So, that now, when we wash our hands many, many times, we believe that we have overcome the virus. Tunaelewana? So, when we have this disorder, we first of all have a thought, an obsessive thought. And then, because we want to overcome that thought, because it is causing fear and anxiety, we tend to engage ourselves in rituals. Now, we understand the time of virus, and that was okay for us to do that. But when somebody has a compulsive disorder, they have those kinds of attacks. I am aware of people. I told you I taught in a high school one time. And there's this boy who comes to our office in the guidance and counseling office. And he says that he wants to be helped because he believes. You see, he believes because that begins in the thought. He believes that he smells. Yeah, anaamini ananuka. Na kwa hivyo, he cannot get rid of that thought. It is so much in his mind, and it is causing a lot of anxiety. And therefore, he even begins to think that other people are running away from him because he is smelling. So how does he overcome this? By bathing. The boy would bathe literally anytime he is free. So he will bathe cold water, remember? Very early in the morning. When they wake up at 6, not at 6, at 4, when they are going for their preps, he will take a bath, a cold bath. Then he goes for preps. After preps, he comes back to the hostel, to the dorm, and he takes another bath, then goes to breakfast, takes breakfast, comes and takes another bath, goes to class for the first 3 lessons of the day, goes back to the dorm and washes and bathes again, goes back to class and for the rest of the time, lunchtime, before he goes for his lunch, he must go take a bath. So he would take a bath like 7 times a day. Is that really normal? Do you think that is normal? And so the boy gets concerned, and actually, he believes he is smelling. So he comes to my office and tells me, Mwalim, I smell. What can I do? What can I do because I smell badly? Even now I'm smelling. So I'm asking him, who tells you that you smell? Me, I am not hearing, I'm not smelling anything. I mean, you are okay. No, Mwalim, me, I know I smell. So it is a very complicated affair. And before you can convince this person that there is nothing of that sort, you now must train them to think, to change their thought pattern. Bwana asifiwe sana. To change their thought pattern so that they don't allow these obsessive thoughts to disturb them. There are people who will sleep and wake up 5 times in the night, just to go check whether the door is locked. You understand? They went to sleep, they locked the door. At 11, they wake up, they are not sure. Something tells them that door is not locked, and you must go and check. They go and check at 11:30 in the night. They go to sleep again. At 2:30, they wake up, and something tells them your door is not locked. So they go back, check the door, and sees it is locked, goes back to sleep. Another one will wake up 101 times to go check the gas cylinder. You understand? this one is leaking. This one, and it will burn us. If this one goes on like this, we shall all be burned. So he will wake up endless times in the night. Those are obsessions. So that is a disorder that we call obsessive compulsive disorder. So when you see somebody washing their hands endlessly, don't judge them. Don't judge them. If you see someone behaving in that kind of manner, please, even you sometimes, you can find yourself there because of certain things that may have happened. So these are uncontrolled thoughts. You are not in control of your own thoughts at that particular time, and you are not even able to control the urge. Even if you know that you locked the door, you know that very well. You locked the door. You can remember locking that door. But when that thought gets into your mind, you cannot control it. So you have to wake up and go check the door if it is locked. Now, we have another one called attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In short, it is called ADHD. ADHD. This one is common among children and youths. We have youths. We are mothers of probably adolescents. We have youths in our church, and we also have children. We interact with them. So this one is common among adolescents and children, but it may also happen among adults, but the manifestations are slightly different. Among children, just like the word suggests, this is a child who cannot be attentive. You know, they cannot concentrate for some amount of time. Then they have another one we call hyperactivity. They are hyper. By the way, we say that, isn't it? Sometimes we describe children, we only hyper. Hyper ni kumaanisha, they are very active. They have a lot of energy and they throw it everywhere. There is a stage in life, especially among boys, that we call terrible two. Terrible two. When a boy, usually boys, when they are 2 years of age, if you are a mother of a boy or you have mothered one, you probably can remember a lot of destruction that happened in your home when the boy was 2 years old, isn't it? Those are the days they broke the TV because they want to get in there and know what is happening. They are the people, that is the age where they will break cups and climb walls and, do destructive, weird things. Now, that is normal for that stage. But the child may be able to grow over that. Are we together? After 2 years, the child should be able to normalize. But if you see a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old who cannot sit on a chair for 2 minutes, they are seated, they are waking up, they are drinking tea, they are drinking porridge at the same time, they are going out and coming back, they are climbing this particular tree, coming down, and all sorts of things. The boy is never tired, or that the girl for that matter. That may be a red flag. It may mean that there's something more. In class, if you are a teacher like myself, you will realize that this is the biggest noisemaker. They are always in the list of noisemakers. In fact, this is the kind of a student, the prefect, when the prefect is asked, where prefect by the TOD, where is the list of the noisemakers? She says, I have not yet prepared. I'll give you tomorrow morning, but I already know. The people. So the prefect can prepare a list before. Because they are aware. They know that so-and-so will always be in that list of noise makers. These are children who are just troublesome in class. They cannot concentrate. When you are teaching, they just can't concentrate. They are pinching their friend, or they are shouting something, or they are standing up and going around the class. They are just unmanageable. If you give them an exam, when an exam is 30 minutes, they'll finish it in 5 minutes. They are done. If your lesson is
is 35 minutes, they have already understood whatever you need to teach even before you have taught it. If you give them an assignment, some maths questions to calculate, and you are going round, when others are struggling and taking all the time, this one has already finished and he is marking for you, helping you to quite unmanageable. And so the teacher must be able to understand what is this that I'm trying to deal with. Sometimes those children are really punished in school, isn't it? They really get clobbered. Thank God for the corporal punishment ban, because those are the people who really know what corporal punishment is all about. And they don't even seem to learn anything. They'll be punished today and tomorrow they are doing the same thing. Now, it can go up to the time of adolescence. So you will see an adolescent who is also all over the place. They can't concentrate. They are in church. Before you sing one worship, they are out. They are making a call. They are inside again. They are chatting. They are on Facebook. They are everywhere. Even at home, they cannot concentrate. You tell them, by the time I come back, I want to find these utensils washed. And they can't. They cannot wash a cup and finish. They just can't. Before it is done, they are out. They are looking at the gate, who is coming, who might be coming. So you will come back and make a lot of noise and ask them, why haven't you washed the utensils? And they wonder, why are you worried? Ma'am, why are you worried? I will do it in my time and in my pace. So it can also be a problematic thing. They are also there in class. They will not concentrate. They will not be at one point and be able to complete a task. Unfortunately, this may go up to adulthood. People in our workplaces, they will never meet deadlines. They will never arrive for a meeting early. They are forever late and forever in a hurry. Have you seen people like that? So they are never settled. So they are there. It is like now me as a teacher, I see some of those people in the school. They will always arrive 15 minutes late. Na 15 kwanza amejaribu sana, by the way. 15 amejaribu. Kwetu sisi huwa tuna one lesson is 1 hour. 1 hour. So this person will come even 30 minutes late. And when they come, they don't seem to know where anything is. They don't know whether they are going to class to call the register or they are going to teach, so they are carrying the register, they are carrying this book and the other book. Then when they arrive in class, they are trying to arrange all of them. Now, the 30 minutes that were remaining, zimeishia hapo tu katikati. Now, so these are people who have problems with punctuality. They are really disorganized in life. Even at home, utakuta sufuria kwa table room somewhere. Na Mungu atusaidia kina mama. Bwana asifiwe sana. Those are the things that put men off. And because I said that we are never trained for these things, your man might not understand what is your problem. You understand? They might just think you are lazy and disorganized and clumsy because everything is everywhere. Everything is everywhere. Very tragic. Kumbe, wewe uko na kashida huku juu. So, your man is forever complaining because diapers are wherever. Dirty clothes are everywhere. When you begin to wash, and it is also good to try and organize. Me, I fear washing clothes. And because I don't like it, it's not one of the things I like most. I don't carry a whole, if I have so many clothes to wash, I don't carry all of them. At niwe naona mulima wa maguo hapo. I will get discouraged. So I organize myself. Ninaziweka tu mahali. So I tell myself I will start with the white ones. So nabeba zile white, the light ones. I go and wash. If I get tired after that, sizigine tu ziko kwa. But I cannot carry the whole thing here, and then I'm doing so many things, and that kimulima inakaa hapo a whole day. I mean, so disorganization is a characteristic of these hyperactive people. They cannot organize anything. They are clumsy. They are just pathetic. Mungu atatusaidia. They also get easily bored. Naye ameongea, anatoka nje, anarudi, ameenda choo, ameenda kunywa maji. amerudi, amefungua kitabu, ameandika one sentence, amefunga tena. Very, just there, and it can be a real problem. That's why we say that these things, these mental sicknesses, they affect our day-to-day life. So that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We have another one, the last one, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder. In short, we call it PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. This one is quite common because it is as a result of some traumatic experiences, like the experience I've just given you. A bad experience, something that happened to you that shook you in such a way that it takes time for you to overcome. So it is as a result of trauma. So the person that is suffering from this kind of sickness is a person who has witnessed, for example, an accident, a bad accident, or some war, like civil war, or an attack, like the terrorists' attacks, things like that, or even the thuggery, like the one I just described. And so, or some sort of violence, rape, or even domestic violence. Any of those traumatic experiences may result to post-traumatic stress disorder that is usually manifested in a number of ways. One is lack of sleep, which we call insomnia. Somebody is not able to sleep. Or if they sleep, they have nightmares. They dream that people are running after them. So you might hear them screaming at night and sweating and waking up very scared and panicky. That person is not just having a dream. That's a nightmare that may be as a result of some trauma that happened somewhere. Alongside other things, they may be very angry and very, very irritated, and they want to isolate themselves. They trust no one. They can't be sure that you are not going to be like those people who probably attacked them. They cannot be sure that you are not going to be like those people that tried to kill them, so they isolate themselves. They have trust issues. They will not be able to trust anybody, so they withdraw. That is the word. They withdraw from others, from social activities. Much of it is not the fear plus the lack of trust. Always sad, very unhappy, and things like that. Now, those are some of the common. There are several others. Even these ones that we have discussed, they can still be subdivided, or they can still be broken down because they don't, these are just generalized classes. Because like when we talk about schizophrenia, it also has levels and probably different manifestations of the same. Now, but because we do not have time, that is just, an overview of some of the common mental illnesses, so that maybe we can be, we can say that we are now at a place where when we see a child behaving in a particular manner, we can tell probably this and that is what is happening. So I had promised that I'll go back to depression because it is the commonest. I can see I just have 15 minutes, and I want to talk about depression, its symptoms, and treatment. How can we treat depression? So as I said, depression is common. It occurs in every one person out of 4. And of course, also it is at different levels. There are different types of depression, but we shall just talk about depression generally. There is even a kind of depression that is caused by weather, especially for those people who live in countries that experience winter seasons. We call it seasonal affective disorder. It occurs usually during that season of winter. And even here, I am thinking there are times that you probably have woken up feeling not very so high in spirits. You want to go to work. but ukitoa kamguu hivi unapima hewa. Unajua tunapimanga hewa. Unatoa mguu kwa blanketi unapima hewa. Unasikia it is 12 degrees. So you tell yourself, this one, it is too cold. It is not a day like this one that I wake up. So even if you have to wake up, and then you see the clothing, you know women like being smart. I know women like being smart, isn't it? But when you have to carry your whole wardrobe, 2 pull necks, a woolala, a trench coat, if they are different, some trouser, and a long one like this. When it is too cold, I wear this and another thing inside. Socks, rubber shoes, surely, rubber shoes. When you know you can walk like this and catwalk, and you know, and you are not allowed by the weather, do you think you'll be laughing all the way? So sometimes we may also be affected, although it is usually serious in places where there is winter, those winter seasons. Now, but the kind of depression that I want to talk about is the one, generally, depression, that is caused by, I will begin with causes of depression, and generally other mental illnesses, not all, other mental illnesses. One of them is genetics. Genetics. In fact, there are these that we say they run in the family. And that's why sometimes, many times, when a person manifests this kind of thing, when they are taken to hospital, the first question the doctor will ask, is there anybody else in your family? Siniliwaambia hata akina shosho walikuwa wanauliza, huko kwa hiyo familia kuna watu ambao wanaruka kichwa, because it is known that genetics play a role. Now, when we come to church, we shall talk about generational curses and things like that we must break. In fact, I love Mom. Mom told me that this is not just mental sickness, it is spiritual warfare. So even as I stand here and I'm telling you these things, we shall be helped by the great women of God here, how to engage in spiritual warfare, because a lot of these things can or will be treatable. They can be destroyed through spiritual warfare. Anything that you hear runs in the family, that's serious. Bwana asifiwe. That is serious. It is like in the book of Lamentations, where Jeremiah was lamenting and was saying, our father sinned, and now we are suffering because of their sins. And therefore, I thank God for this conference, because I know that even as I talk from the medic point of view, there is a way that we shall be taken through the spiritual line or journey, and we are taught how to break some of these things that we are saying they run in the family. So genetics. The other one is environment. A lot of mental illnesses are caused by stressful environmental conditions. Like stressful situations, loss of jobs, stress or pressure in the workplace or at home, things like domestic violence, things like alcoholism. They cause a lot of stress, and they can bring about depression even to other members of the family other than the victim himself or herself. We have things like extreme poverty. You know, extreme poverty. Ile poverty ambayo is so extreme. Inflation, like in our nation today. That's why we say that the numbers could be increasing, because we are going through a very serious economic season of inflation, and therefore a lot of people are depressed. A lot of people have lost jobs during COVID time, and businesses came down, and families broke. People died, you know, loss of loved ones is a cause of depression, all those things. So we are just talking about environment generally, where you are. If you are facing some kind of pressure that is beyond you, you are likely to be depressed. We also have another course, which is childhood trauma. Childhood trauma. A lot of things happen to people when they are growing up. I went to school, especially in primary school, during times when our teachers, our primary school teachers, I'm talking about those days. So if you are a teacher and you are here, I am not talking about you. I am talking about our teachers. And they used to harass us. They used to wait for us, you know. First of all, we are told to arrive in school at 6:30. And you have to cover a 7-kilometer journey, barefoot. If you are there, I know you can relate. Barefoot, 7 kilometers. Sometimes it's raining. You have no sweater because at the home things are also not very good. Asubuhi muliamkia katurungi na kaugali kajana jioni. And when you are served that kaugali, you had to make sure you umebakisha kidogo. Sometimes we quarrel with my husband. This is a women conference, and we agreed we are talking about things, isn't it? We used to quarrel with my husband a lot because every time I serve him food, whatever it is, he has got to leave something on the plate. Hawezi kumaliza chakula. Huyu mwanamume nashangaa, is it me who is trying to overfeed you, or what is your problem? Every time, kama ni githeri, there must be 2-3 grains that will be left. Kama ni kaugali, lazima kabaki tu kidogo. So, my plate, every time I'm taking it back, I must pour something. It really disturbed me. So one day I engaged him and I asked him, what is this problem, my friend, that you have? Why then, when I'm serving you, why can't you? And even when he tells me, usiniwekea chakula kingi, so mimi sininamjua, kwa hivyo ninampima. Kivyangu, so ninampima, najua hii atamaliza. Lakini hawezi maliza. So I asked him one day, what is wrong? So he told me, you know, when I was growing up, because we didn't have a lot of food at home, and we were never sure of all the 3 meals. Every time you ate supper, at least they were sure, my mother-in-law would make sure there is supper, even if there is no lunch. Lunch sometimes would have to be kauji or nothing. So, but supper, at least she would make sure there is something for supper. Now, breakfast is not an assurance. In fact, it was never even mentioned. It was never part of the budget. But one thing you know, you are going to take supper. Sasa, supper ikiwa ni gatheri kamepikwa. Ndio mtu ajisort asubuhi, you had to control your appetite. So he told me that they had learned that once you take your supper, you must leave some, even if haukushiba, unabakisha kidogo, ndio ukule kesho asubuhi, ukule hiyo na tumaji uende shule. So anabakishanga ugali, anabakishanga gatheri, anabakishanga kachapo, hata kachapo kale alikuwa ameshika na mkono like this, lazima ibaki. So I told him, but now we have come from there. God has blessed us. What is this that is? And he's saying, I am still learning. It keeps haunting me. You understand? So those are childhood experiences. Sometimes they can be worse than that. And they will affect you in older age. Actually, depression manifests very well at adolescence. That is the time now you will realize that this person is reliving the experiences of the past. So childhood trauma, maybe a child who was mistreated, a child who was not taken care of, a child that was neglected by their parents, a child who lost their parents at a young age, a child who was brought up in poverty. Those things can resort to depression, especially when now the person gets into adolescence. Then we have negative thoughts. Negative thoughts can cause depression. And negative thoughts are thoughts of shame. For example, you are ashamed of yourself. There are people who are ashamed of their bodies. I used to be ashamed of my body some times ago because I used to be very thin, very thin. So I always looked for, many times when I go to my tailor, I would tell them to make a big thing, you know. So I was wearing this one. I'm now not wearing it because of that. I have overcome that. I am wearing it because I want to look like Mama Kanisa. Bwana asifiwe. But those days I used to wear it for different reasons. So I would wear pleated skirts, you know those ones with the pleats, I would wear a circular thing. I would wear gathered skirts and things like that, so that when I'm walking around, I feel big. Because I used to be ashamed of my small body. That's me. The other people who are ashamed of different things. So when you have those thoughts of shame, for one reason or the other, maybe you are not very happy about your short hair, or your skin. You could be too light or too dark. You could be too short or too tall. You know, you could have fat legs or thin legs. Si tunaongea? And these are the things that affect us. I told you women are very emotional, isn't it? So especially if somebody ever commented about you in any way, ay, where's ni mweusi? So you will try everything, yeah? There's a girl we used to be in school with her. She was called Jane, and she was very short indeed. You know, the shortness that cannot pass unnoticed. So girls in school kept telling her, ay, Jane, see, you are short. Well, Jane is short. And of course, making fun of other things that would happen to her because of her shortness. And then Jane got angry one day. She just got angry, and she started now defending herself. So she would say things like this. I know. That's not news. I know I'm short. That's now how she would defend herself. So you tell her, Jane, you are so short. I know. Now that would put you off. The next time you'll be careful. Are we together? Now, so that is shame. We have thoughts of shame. Again, probably because of our childhood. I was just telling you about our primary school teachers who would really abuse us. Wewe ni mjinga kama nyanyako, na hata hujui huyo nyanya. Unaelewa? Ulipozaliwa alikuwa amekufa. Apparently the teacher knew the nyanya. So now he is comparing you with the dead grandmother. Wewe ni mjinga kama nyanya yako. So we grew up feeling ashamed of ourselves because of those insults. So shame is one of the thoughts that can occupy our minds for one reason or the other, and at some point it can cause depression. So negative thoughts, thoughts of guilt. Maybe you committed a crime one time in your life, like this girl who was a pastor's daughter, and she was in the prison worship team. And then after service, they would be told by the father, who was the pastor, to go and count the tithe and the offerings in the office. And then this girl, as a little girl, one day decided to take away 10 cents. Unajua 10 cents, we used to call it kengotore. 10 cents to go and buy some particle, those white sweets. So the girl, she takes away 10 cents from the tithe and offering basket. And she buys the sweet and she's happy about it. Then the following Sunday, she's in the praise and worship. Amekuja kwa madhabahu, akijaribu kuinua mkono juu, anakumbuka siwe uliiba 10 cents. Weka hiyo mikono. Ata wacha kuiba. And so it got into her. You know, the devil has a way of taking you through that guilt journey. So every time it nagged her. Before she knew what was happening, she was out of the praise and worship team. She no longer wanted to be called a pastor's daughter. She does not even want to go to church anymore. You understand? And now when some little pressure is put on her, she gets depressed because of guilt. Until, of course, God intervened. So guilt can make you depressed. Maybe it is something that you did and you have not been able to forgive yourself. And so you keep suffering from that, and it can affect you a lot. Then we have unhealthy habits. They can cause depression. Unhealthy habits like lack of exercise. You know, eating junks, a lot of junk. Junk has a way of causing, you know, it has a way of affecting the chemical, you know, of the body. So we are advised not to eat junks. Even things like alcoholism, that's a bad lifestyle. For those people who drink a lot, there is a kind of depression that we call substance-induced depression. It is those things you hear them say, hangover, sijui what. That now one is it's something that is brought about by the alcoholism, and it is as a sort of unhealthy habits, and generally brain chemistry. Chemistry. Sometimes there are some hormonal imbalances, like those that happen during menopause. Menopause is something a lot of people don't like talking about, but I hope that we can embrace it. Menopause has a way of causing chemical imbalance in our bodies. When I look at majority of you, I see very few young mothers. So majority of us may be understanding what menopause is all about. We fear it. We don't like talking about it. It makes us feel so old, like we are just going to die the next moment. And it has a way of daniering our way of thinking and our hormones that you just wake up very sad, very, very unhappy. And I have heard people say that it is very difficult even in places of work, especially when you have a woman for a boss and that woman is, in that stage. They can be very difficult. They can be very, very difficult. I don't know. I mean, you do your own observations, but menopause has a way. It doesn't cause depression, but it triggers. It is a trigger. It can increase the risk of depression. There is another kind of thing that may happen to mothers, childbirth. Childbirth can also trigger depression. There is a kind of depression that we call postpartum depression. Postpartum depression, and it is quite common. A lot of times it goes undiagnosed, and therefore a lot of people are suffering silently. This is a kind of depression that happens after childbirth, depending on a lot of things that probably happened. Maybe a difficult birth, maybe an unwanted. I don't like talking about unwanted because there is really nobody that is unwanted, but we can talk about an unplanned pregnancy. See, that is better. An unplanned pregnancy. There's nothing like unwanted pregnancy. It is usually probably unplanned. Where ulikuwa tu unafanya mambo yako and then another thing happened in the process. And so you are really not prepared. And you carry this pregnancy, maybe wishing that you can have a miscarriage, wishing that you can just have an accident and that thing comes out, and just hoping that you never even get to the point of, so when you carry the pregnancy to term and you give birth, there is that depression that can come and can make you, feel that you are not even ready for this child. A lot of times when that happens, these mothers reject their children. They may reject their children. I was counseling a girl in our college who was going through postpartum depression. And she was telling me that she was crying a lot. She would look at that child and really cry, not because of anything wrong with the child. The child is okay, a girl, beautiful and all that. But the mother now would look at her. The moment she sees this child, she cries uncontrollably. And then she just was unable to breastfeed the child. She didn't want to breastfeed the child. And therefore, in the course of time, maziwa ikapotea. Maziwa tu ikapotea. So even when she attempted to breastfeed the child, there was no milk. But you see, it started from the mind, from the feeling that this is not even my child in the first place. I am not ready. I'm not prepared for this. So she rejects the child. And then it's like sort of a cycle. Because of this rejection, she again begins to feel guilty. So part of the crying is because she is unable to handle the child, but also feeling guilty because she is rejecting her own child. So it becomes a very complicated thing, but it is there. It is called postpartum depression. A lot of times it goes undiagnosed, and may God help us so that we are able to deal with it and probably even to notice it when it happens. So let me talk about treatment of mental illnesses. Now, I have not exhausted that. Nivile tu sasa, I must leave there. But I believe we have captured a lot of the causes or a lot of the things that can happen to us so that we find ourselves depressed. Maybe before I talk about treatment, let me talk about symptoms. Symptoms of depression. Forgive me for that, but let me go to symptoms first. Now, depression, like I said, again, it is not something that is very easy to diagnose because it really does not pain as such. You may not have a stomachache. You may not. Sometimes you will. But you may, a lot of times it may not happen. But you'll be able to see certain things or experience certain things yourself. Now, the reason, or at the point where we say that somebody is depressed, we we say that they must have manifested certain signs and symptoms for a period of 2 weeks, continuously, or most days. There are actually certain tests that we can administer, some sort of questionnaire that we can give somebody so that you test yourself. You can actually be able to test yourself if you are depressed. There are those tests. They are all over in the internet, actually. And you can test yourself. Sometimes when you sense that your life is not, following the normal path, you can just, but do not be quick to decide that you are depressed until you see the same symptoms for a period of 2 weeks, either continuously or for most days. Even in that questionnaire, that is how some of those questions will be asked. So if you wake up feeling sad and feeling unhappy on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and then by the weekend you are okay, we cannot say you are depressed. Are we together? Because life happens to every one of us. And there are times things are not the same as other days. Sindio? There are times you are stressed. There are times you are going through some certain difficult times. But you quickly overcome that because there's something we call mechanisms. Actually, by the time we are diagnosing somebody of mental illness, we are actually saying that the mechanisms of this person, because your body and your brain is wired up in such a way that it should be able to handle anything that you come across in life. Bwana asifiwe. That's how God designed life. He gave us the grace that when we lose a job, we will get sad for 2 days and then wake up and go look for another job, isn't it? Now, if we lose a loved one, we can mourn for a few days and then arise and accept it and move on. If a presidential candidate is not sworn in, or they don't win the presidential election, we can mourn for a few days and then rise up and move on, isn't it? That's how we are wired. But now, the body has its own mechanisms. It has own mechanisms of being able to handle anything that comes into our lives. So when we say that somebody is suffering from mental illness, it is actually because they have weak mechanisms, or they are not able to use the mechanisms that are already provided for them to be able to handle that situation. That is why we will wait up to a period of 2 weeks. If you are crying every day for 2 weeks, that is now not normal. Are we together? If you are sad for every day for 2 weeks, there is something of a problem. If you are doing certain things, that are deemed abnormal for a period of 2 weeks. So I need you to understand that difference. Because even among the youth, we shall see certain aspects of depression. Maybe you can see your adolescent son or daughter is not normal, for some days. Some other days they don't want to talk to anybody, they are hiding, they are all that kind of thing. But until it goes for a period of 2 weeks continuously, probably it might be a bit too early to judge that this person is actually depressed. So these signs that I'm going to talk about must be manifested. For us to quite comfortably say that the person is depressed, they must be manifested in about 2 weeks. So the first one is a persistent feeling of sadness. Sometimes that cannot be explained. A persistent feeling of sadness. And this is the person you'll ask, what is wrong? Anakuambia sijui. Bona hauna furaha sijui. They don't know. They might not be able to explain it. Are we together? So it is unexplained. There is really maybe no cause in your perception. They might not be able to touch A or B or C and say that this is the reason I am feeling the way I am feeling. Most of the times they will just tell you, I don't know. Sijui kwa nini nasikia hivyo. So the other one is crying, bouts of crying. Crying, like you wake up and you just begin to cry, or you go to bed and you are just crying, or sometimes you are caught up in the place of work and you need to hide somewhere so that you can cry. Again, when people ask you, why are you crying? You may not really be able to explain. It is just an urge. It is just something. Probably a thought that gets in your mind or some memory somewhere or something, but you may not exactly tell the reason I'm crying is this. So if that again goes on for 2 weeks, that's reason for concern. A feeling of hopelessness or despair, that is number 3, a feeling of hopelessness or despair, or just a feeling of emptiness, hopelessness, just feeling that there's no hope. Everything is done. I'm done. It's over. It cannot change. This is too much. It is too difficult. It cannot be, that kind of feeling. You don't see any solution to your problem anywhere near. If you have lost a job, you don't see like you will ever get a job. So you feel like you have reached a dead end. So again, if that goes on, it goes on and it is affecting your day-to-day kind of life. You are not able to do other normal things. You are not able to bathe. You are not able to wake up from bed. You are not able to eat as you normally do. You don't go to the kitchen. You can't cook. You are not able to sleep. Those are things that may bring about, may be as a result of depression. Then we have suicidal thoughts, and of course, actually suicidal acts. Sometimes we have just the thoughts, but the thoughts can be actualized, especially among men. If men have suicidal thoughts, they are likely to commit suicide. And there's this belief sometimes that people pass around, that ukisikia mtu akisema anataka kujiua, huyo hajiui. It is not true. Especially if that person is a man. If you hear somebody saying that they want to kill themselves, now I'm being told to go and sit down. And I will do that. 5 minutes is too much, my dear. 5. Now, so if you hear someone saying that they want to kill themselves, don't throw them aside. That's called a cry. It's a cry for help. They are looking for someone. They want someone to hear them out. Now, then we have lack of interest in hobbies, things that you normally enjoy doing. You are no longer interested. You enjoy coming to church. You enjoy washing utensils. You enjoy going for weddings. You enjoy going for chamas. You are no longer interested. You don't want. You no longer are even interested in going for work. So that is a sign. Withdrawal from friends or relatives. You don't want anything to do with anybody. If somebody calls you and they are a family member, you don't tell them, you don't even pick the phone. There is a time our sister was going through some difficult times and she got into depression. And anytime you told her that you want to visit her, she would tell you she's not at home. If you insisted, she would tell you, enda utoe funguo hapo kwa maua. Hapo kwa maua. She would keep her keys. Sometimes she would still be in the house, but she would tell you she's not there. Usikuje, I'm not around, I'm not at home. So if you insist, she will tell you, if you really have to come, come to an empty house. And of course that time she would go and leave the keys. Na ataenda, hata kubali muongee ama muonane. So that is withdrawal. We have an inclination towards drugs and alcoholism. Somebody just started drinking, especially the youth. Please, let's watch out. If you notice that you are a young person or a young person near you was not drinking and then all of a sudden, or anybody else for that matter, it might be a sign that they are nursing depression. Then there are some other things we call psychosomatic pains. Psychosomatic pain, psycho is P-S-Y, psychosomatic. Just write it in the way you'll understand. Psychosomatic pains. These are physical pains. Physical, that have no cure. I mean, it is a headache that has no reason. You go to the doctor, he checks malaria. You are complaining of headache. They check malaria, they check amoeba, they check blood pressure, they check everything. And nothing is wrong with you. But you are having a persistent headache. Backache, backache. Sometimes the lower back or even the upper back, upper ear kwa mabega, it can persist. And anytime you go to the doctor, there is nothing they are able to find. as rather medically that can be associated with your pains. It can be as a result of depression. Then we have anger and irritability. People get very angry. They don't want you to tell them anything. If you ask them to do anything, they are all over, they are angry. Then we have change in eating and sleeping habits. Change in eating and sleeping habits. Now, if I have 5 minutes left, can I add 3? Three only, so that I talk about treatment very quickly. Ma'am, yes. Just say treatment. I'll not even explain, because one is medication. Medication. You can be given medication. The second one is psychotherapy. It is also known as talk therapy. The one we kawaida call counseling. Psychotherapy. Then there's self-care and self-talk. Self-care. Take care of yourself. Feed well. Dress well. You know, look good. Do exercise. Love yourself. Learn to love yourself. Do the things that you love and the things that you enjoy. People might not always tell you they love you, even if they do. But you can love yourself and learn to feel good about yourself. Huh? Now, self-care and self-talk. Talk to yourself. Wejite kamkutano ya kando, kama Daudi. David always kept talking to himself. He would say in most Psalms, "Oh, my heart, why are you downcast?" That is talking to yourself, isn't it? And you don't have to you know, you just need to decide to talk to yourself. Then we need to also establish strong family support system. Strong family support system, they help a lot. Family can be church, family can be nuclear, family can be extended, family can be friends. Very, very important. Have people that you can share your life experiences with. People that can support you. People that can stand with you. Now, of course, prayer. It may appear like it is the last, but it is the most important. Prayer is key. And then, like we were told, praise and worship, that is just dwelling in the presence of God. Music, by the way, is very key. Whenever you are feeling like you are experiencing some stress, some depression, some distressing thoughts, just sing, put some music, and it will do some good. Just make sure that your environment is covered with worship. And before long, you realize your mind has been taken that direction. And finally, our thought system. Let's take care of our thoughts. The Bible tells us in the book of Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. It shows us the things that we need to think about. Think about good things. Think about the things that are true. Think about the things that are noble. So the Bible has given us a guide on how our thought system should be like. Don't think about things that happened in the past, things that you did in the past, things that were done to you in the past or in the present. Think in a particular direction and you will be healed from depression. Maybe just to say something about the youth and children, some of the signs that children and the youth will manifest when they have depression, because they also suffer depression, you will start to notice that your children or your child has problems in school. Either they don't want to go to school, or they want to change schools, or they do not want to go to certain classes, or they just have trouble with the school. That is a sign. Sometimes they manifest as running away from school, truance. We call it truance. That could be a sign. I'm not saying it is. It is good to just have time with your child and try to understand why this behavior. The other thing is that they may have a sudden drop in performance. A child that was doing very well, and then suddenly they are nowhere to be seen. It can be a sign of depression. Sometimes they are taken as indiscipline cases, but they need to be checked. alongside those other signs that I've talked about. And I think that is what I have today. That's what I can share. And may God bless us. Thank you so much for listening to me. I would have given you a small test, but now I've been told I sit down. Maybe if I get another opportunity, we shall do some little exercise that should be able to help us, have a way of dealing with our own life the way it comes. God bless you so much.
Amen, amen. Let us appreciate